Oops. Forgot to grab my drink and ice and this day in history. Ugh. So, how are we doing, my friends? 2 whole days since I've seen you, and boy, it's been a couple hot days. Honestly, today thought it was going to be a little worse than it was. Tig and I went out. We played tennis for about, I don't know. I think we lasted for about 40 minutes, and then we began to melt a little bit. But I got a lot of stuff done today. Busy, 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 busy day, which I like. Though I'm tired and I want to get some reading in. But tomorrow morning I have to be up early because Aiden, my older son, is getting his wisdom teeth out. So he was supposed to already have them out. I don't know if I told you guys this. He was already supposed to have them out, and then with everything that happened, the appointment was pushed. And then last week we went in, and I was like, yeah, they're going to probably say like late July or August. And sure enough, they were like, yeah, it was next Wednesday. And I was like, what? So I think it's kind of good to get it done now before the summer really gets kicked off and it doesn't get in the way of like vacation or work or whatever. He works at the same farm that I work at. So having this done early before things get really crazy, I think is good. So anywho, we left off last time we were together, and let's see. Where'd we leave off? Oh, that's right. The battle at the house. That's right. I'm sorry. Sam has been wounded. That's right. Good Lord, Sam, I say. When did that happen? Right before I got a hold of the Mog's sword. I kind of pulled it out of my leg. All right. Oh, excuse me. All right, come on. Get out of the car, I say. Get on the ground. Six shoves her head under Sam's armpit and helps him to the ground. I open the back and I retrieve the healing stone from the chest. Better hold on to something, man. This might sting. Six offers her hand, and he takes it. The second I press the stone to his wound, he writhes in agony as every muscle tightens. It seems like he's going to pass out. The skin around his wound turns white, then black, then into the bright red color of blood. I immediately regret attempting to use the stone on a human. Did Henry ever say it would work on them? I'm trying to remember as Sam lets out a long-winded groan and empties him of air. The outer edge of the wound seals inward and then disappears altogether. Sam relaxes his grip on Six's hand and he slowly regains his breath. After a minute, he's able to sit up. Man, do I ever want to be an alien, he finally says. You guys get to do way too many cool things. You had me worried for a second there, buddy, I say. Wasn't sure if it would work on you since some of the other stuff from the chest doesn't. Me either, Six adds. She leans over and she kisses him on his dirty cheek. Sam lies back down and sighs. Six laughs and rubs her hand over his head of stubble, and I'm surprised by how much jealousy bubbles inside me. Do you want to go to the hospital, I ask. I want to stay right here, he says, forever. Oh, excuse me. You know what? You were pretty lucky we were out on that walk. Six says after we settle back into the SUV. You're right, I say. Sam places his right cheek on the headrest so he can look at both of us. Why were you guys out walking in the first place? I couldn't sleep. Neither could Six. I answer with technically is the truth, but it doesn't take away the guilt. I know that Sarah is the girl for me, but I can't seem to stop these new feelings I have. Six sighs. You know what this means, right? What? They've probably opened my chest. You don't know that for sure. No, I don't. But after I grabbed that rock from your chest and it started pulsing and hurting my hand, I haven't been able to shake the feeling I got from it. And it just now came to me that it probably has something to do with my chest. They've had your chest for 3 years now, I say. So you think it's possible for them to open the chest without us being dead? She shrugs. I don't know, maybe. But I have this feeling they got into mine that when I touched the stone, it somehow let out scouts to our house. Why send so few, Sam asks between yawns. I mean, why not wait for reinforcements before attacking? Maybe they got scared and panicked, Six offers. Maybe one of them wanted to be a hero, I say. Six rolls down her window and listens. When she's satisfied, she says, regardless, next time there will be more of them. Pikins and crawls and whatever else they can throw at us. You're probably right, Sam whispers. He's drifting off. I'll tell you one thing. This being on the run is really wearing me down. Tried doing it for 11 years, I say. I think I'm a little homesick. Oh my goodness. I'm so sorry, guys. Excuse me. I think I'm a little homesick, he mumbles. I lean forward and I see that in his lap he's holding his father's old glasses, the ones with the thick lenses he used to wear in paradise. It's not too late to go back, Sam. You know that, right? And he frowns. I'm not going back. It's with far less conviction this time around than when he had first said it in North Carolina motel. Not until I find my dad, or until at least I learn what happened to him. His dad. Oh, his dad? Six mouths to me, confused. Later, I mouth back. Fair enough, I say. We'll figure it out eventually. I turn back to Six. So where do we head tomorrow morning? Now that it seems they opened my chest, I guess we'll see where the wind carries us. It hasn't let me down yet, she says with a wistful sort of tone, then glances over at me. Did you know that if it wasn't for the wind and my need for caffeine one night in Pennsylvania, the night before the attack in Paradise, I'd have never gotten there in time? What are you talking about, I ask. I was drifting through the Midwest, sensing you guys were in Ohio or West Virginia or Pennsylvania, after I found some news online of what I thought was probably the handiwork of Moggs in Athens near that college. But after a few weeks of coming up empty, I was certain I'd lost your trail. Oh, my goodness. I figured you guys had taken off for California or Canada by that point. So there I was, standing in the parking lot of this strip mall, tired and lost, practically broke, when this huge gust of wind ripped past me and blew open the door of the coffee shop to my left. I thought I would refuel and get back out there and figure something out. But in the corner of the shop was an open computer for customers. I bought a large coffee and I started searching the internet. Sure enough, I found an article about the house on fire that you jumped out of. I'm embarrassed to know how easy it was to find me. No wonder Henry wanted to keep me home or at school all the time. If it wasn't for that gust of wind opening the door, I would have probably ended up in a diner instead, sipping on coffee until daylight. I wrote down all the information I could find on you guys, and then I ran down the street looking for an all-night copy place. That's when I sent the fax and the letter with my number to try to warn you guys, or the very least, to tip you off so you could brace yourselves until I got there. And I arrived just in the nick of time. I have to turn off this fan. I'm sorry, I totally forgot. There's a fan behind me. And it's probably pretty loud. Hold on. Sorry about that, my friends. Yikes. I was like, why is it so loud in here? My bad. My bad. Chapter 18. Here we go. Chapter 18. The wind carries us north to an Alabama motel where we stay 2 nights, again, thanks to Sam using one of my identities. From there, we drive west and spend a night beneath the stars in an open field in Oklahoma, which we follow up with 2 more nights in a Holiday Inn on the outskirts of Omaha, Nebraska. And from there, for no apparent reason, at least for no reason she'll admit to, 6 drives 1,000 miles east to rent a log cabin nestled in the mountains of the Maryland Panhandle, a mere 5-minute drive to the West Virginia border, and 3 short hours from the Magadorian Cave. We're exactly 197 miles from Paradise, Ohio, where our journey first began. Half a tank of gas from Sarah. Before my eyes even open, I can already feel it's going to be a tough day. One of those days when the reality of Henry's death will still hit me like a sledgehammer. And no matter what I do, the pain won't leave. Pain won't leave. I've been having these days more often, days filled with remorse, filled with guilt, filled with a genuine sadness to know I'll never talk to him again. The thought cripples me. I wish I could change it, but as Henry once said, some things can never be undone. And then there's Sarah and the terrible guilt that's crept in since leaving Florida for allowing myself to get close to 6, that I almost kissed her. I take a deep breath, finally opening my eyes. The pale morning light enters the room. Henry's letter, I think. I have no choice but to read it now. It's too dangerous to delay for any longer, not after almost losing it in Florida. I slip my hand beneath the pillow and remove the diamond-bladed dagger in the letter. I've been keeping them both very close to me. I stare at the envelope for a moment, trying to imagine under the circumstances the letter was written. Then I sigh, knowing it doesn't really matter and that I'm just wasting time. With the dagger, I make a clean cut along the envelope seal and I remove the pages. Henry's perfect handwriting fills 5 yellow legal-sized sheets with thick black ink. I take a deep breath and then I let my eyes fall upon the top sheet. January 19th. J. I've written this letter many times over the years, never knowing whether it might be my last. But if you're reading this now, then surely the answer is yes. I'm sorry, John, I truly am. We C-PANs who came, our duty was to protect the 9 at all costs, including our lives. But as I put down these words at our kitchen table, mere hours after you saved me in Athens, I know it's never been the duty that has kept me and you together, but rather love that will always be a stronger bond than obligation. The truth is that my death was always going to happen. The only variables were when and how. And if it hadn't been for you, then I would have certainly died today. Whatever the circumstances of my death, please don't blame yourself. I never expected to survive here. When we left Lorien all those years ago, I knew I would never be going back. In the time between me writing these words and you reading them, I wonder how much you've discovered. I'm confident you know that I kept a lot from you, probably more than I should have. For most of your life, I wanted you to stay focused, to train hard. I wanted to give you as normal a life on earth as I could. I'm sure you'll find that idea laughable, but to know the full truth would have added a world of stress during an already stressful time. Where to begin? Your father's name was Lirin. He was brave and powerful, and he lived his life with integrity and purpose. As you witnessed during your visions of the war, he carried out these traits until the very end, even when he knew the war was unwinnable. And that's about all any of us can really hope for, to die with dignity, to die with honor and valor, to not die knowing we did everything we could. That was the epitome of who your father was. It's the epitome of who you are, too, even if you don't necessarily believe it. I sit up, my back flat against the headboard, rereading my father's name over and over. The lump in my throat expands into a rock. I wish Sarah was here urging me to read on. Her head on my shoulder. I focus my eyes on the next paragraph. Oh, he's thinking of Sarah again. When you were just a small child, your father came around even when he wasn't supposed to. He adored you, and he could sit for hours watching you play in the grass with Hadley. I wonder now, have you discovered Bernie Kosar's true identity? And while I'm sure you don't remember much of your youthful days, I can safely say you were a happy boy. For a brief while, you had the sort of childhood all children deserve, though not all receive. While I spent considerable time with your father, I met your mother only once. Her name was Lara, and, like your father, she was reserved and maybe even a little shy. I tell you this now because I want you to know who you are and who you come from. You come from a simple family of simple means, and the truth that I've always wanted to share with you is that we didn't leave Lorien because of where we happened to be that day. Our being at the airfield, it wasn't sheer happenstance. We were there because when the attack began, the guard rallied together to get you there. Many sacrificed their lives in the process. There were supposed to be 10 of you, though, as you already know, only 9 of you made it off. Tears blur my vision. I slide my fingers over my mother's name, Lara. Lara and Lirin. I wonder what my Lorik name was, if it also started with L. I wonder if there wasn't a war, if I would have had a younger sister or brother. So much has been taken from me. When the 10 of you were born, Lorien recognized your strong hearts, your wills, your compassion, and in turn, she bestowed the 10 of you with the roles you're all meant to assume, the roles of the original 10 elders. What this means is that in time, those of you left will grow to be far stronger than anything Lorien has ever seen before, far stronger even than the original 10 elders, from whom you've received your inheritances. The Magadorians know this, which is why they're hunting you so feverishly now. They've grown desperate and have flooded this planet with spies. I never told you the truth because I feared it might drive you to arrogance and that you might be led astray. And there's far too much danger out there looking for you to risk that. I urge you, become strong, grow into the role you are meant to assume, and then find the others. Those of you left, you can still win this war. The last thing I have to tell you is that we didn't move to paradise by chance. Your legacies were delayed, and I had begun to worry. When my worry grew into a full-out panic, when the third scar appeared, knowing you are next, I decided to seek out one man who might hold the key to finding the others. When we arrived on Earth, there were 9 humans waiting for us, who understood our situation and our need to scatter. They were allies of the Lorik, and the last time we were here, 15 years ago, they were all given a transmission device that would turn itself on if it came into contact with one of our ships. They were there that night to provide us guidance in the transition from Lorien to Earth, to help us get started. None of us had ever been here before. When we stepped off the ship, we were all given 2 pairs of clothes, a packet of instructions to help us learn the planet's ways, and a slip of paper with an address on it. The address where a place to start, not to stay. None of us knew where others were headed. Ours led us to a small town in Northern California. It was a nice, quiet place 15 minutes from the coast. I taught you to ride a bike there, to fly a kite, and more simple things like tying your shoes, which I had to teach myself first. We stayed 6 months, and then we went about our way, as I knew we must. The man who met you and me, our guide, was from here. He was from paradise, and I sought him because I was desperate to know where the others first went. But when we arrived here, the dark stars must have fallen, because the man was already gone. The man who met us that first day, who gave us the cultural guide to follow, and who set us up in our first homes, his name was, dun dun dun, Malcolm Goody, Sam's father. What I'm telling you now, John, is that I believe Sam was right. I believe that his father was abducted, and for Sam's sake, I can only hope he's still alive. And if Sam's still with you, I ask that you tell him this information. And I hope he finds comfort in hearing it. Become who you're meant to become, John. Grow strong and powerful, and never forget a minute the things you've learned along the way. Be noble, be confident, be brave. Live with the same sort of dignity and valor that you inherited from your father, and trust in your heart and your will, as Lorian trusts in it still to this day. Never lose faith in yourself and never lose hope. Remember, even when this world throws its worst and turns its back, there is still always hope. And I am certain someday you will make it back home. With love, your friend in CPAN, H. Blood pounds in my ears, and despite what Henry has written, I know in my heart that if we'd left paradise when he wanted to, that he'd still be alive, that he would still be alive. We'd still be together. He came to the school to save me because it was his duty to, and because he loved me. And now he's gone. I take a deep breath and I wipe my face with the back of my hand, and then I walk from my room. Despite his bad leg, Sam insisted on taking the second floor, even when Six and I offered to take it instead. I go up the stairs now, and I knock on his door. I enter and I flip his bedside lamp on, and I see his father's old glasses on the nightstand. Sam stirs. Sam? Hey, Sam, sorry to wake you, but there's some major shit you need to know. That gets his attention, and he pulls off the blanket. Tell me then. First, you have to promise not to get mad. I want you to know that I had no idea of what I'm about to tell you just now. And whatever Henry's reasons were for not telling you to your face, you have to forgive him. He scoots up in the mattress until his back rests on the headboard. Damn, John, tell me already. Promise me. Fine, I promise. I hand him the letter. I should have read it sooner, Sam. I'm really sorry I didn't. I leave the room and I close the door to give him the privacy he deserves. I'm not sure how he'll react. There's no telling how a person will accept the answer to the question they've asked most of their life, the question that's haunted them. I walk down the stairs and I slip out the back door with Bernie Kosar, who runs into the forest. I sit on top of the picnic table. I can see my breath in the cool February air. Darkness is pushed to the west, while the morning light bleeds from the east. I stare up at the half moon and I wonder if Sarah is looking at it, or if any of the others might be seeing it. Me and the others, the 5 still alive, are meant to assume the roles of the elders. I still don't entirely understand what that means. Then I close my eyes and I lift my face towards the sky. I stay that way until the door slides open behind me. I turn expecting to see Sam, but it's Six. She climbs up on the picnic table and sits next to me. I offer her a weak smile, but she doesn't return it. I heard you walk out here. Is everything okay? Did you and Sam have a fight or something, she asks. What? No, why? All I know is he's crying on the couch downstairs and he won't talk to me. I pause before telling her. I finally read the letter Henry left behind. There's some stuff about Sam he and I haven't told you. It's about his dad. What about his dad? Everything okay? I turn my body so our knees touch. Listen, when I met Sam in school, he was pretty obsessed with the disappearance of his dad, who just didn't come home from the grocery store one day. They found his trucking glasses on the ground next to the truck. You know those glasses that you see him carrying around all the time? Six turns to look inside the back door. Wait, those are his dad's? Yeah. And so the deal is that Sam is pretty convinced that he was abducted by aliens, which I always thought was crazy. But I don't know. I let him on believing it because of who I am. And I don't want to crush the dude's hope in finding his dad again. I was waiting for Sam to tell you all this, but I just read Henry's letter, and you wouldn't believe what was in there. What? I tell her everything about Sam's dad being a Lorik ally who met Henry and me when the ship landed, why Henry moved us to paradise. Six slides off the top of the picnic table and lands awkwardly on the bench. That is just so totally random that Sam is here, in there. I don't think it is. I mean, think about it. It just so happens that all of the people in paradise I'm drawn for a best friend. It happens to be Sam. I think we were destined to meet. Maybe you're right. Pretty cool that his dad helped us out that night, though, right? The coolest. Remember when he said he had these feelings growing inside him about being with us? I do. But here's the thing. In Henry's letter, he says that Sam's dad actually was abducted, or maybe even killed by the Magadorians. We sit in silence watching the sun come up over the horizon. Bernie Kosar jogs out of the forest and rolls onto his back to have his belly rubbed. Hey there, Hadley. He flips onto his feet instantly when I say it, tilting his beagle head. Yeah, I say, jumping down to scratch his chin between his hands. I know. Sam walks out. His eyes are red. He sits next to Six on the bench. Hi, Hadley, Sam says to Bernie Kosar. BK barks in response and licks his hands. Hadley, Six asks. The dog barks again in approval. I always knew it, Sam says. Always, from the day he disappeared. You were right all the time, I say. Do you mind if I read the letter, Six asks. Sam hands it to her. I aim my right palm at the front page and turn on its light. She reads the letter in its radiance, then folds the pages and hands them back. I'm really sorry, Sam, she says. I add, Henry and I wouldn't have survived if it wasn't for your dad. Six then turns to me. You know, it's ridiculous that your parents were Lyron and Lara. Or it's ridiculous I didn't realize that myself. Do you remember me from Lorien, John? Your parents and my parents, their names were Arin and Lynn. They were best friends. I know we weren't around our parents that often, but I remember going to your house a few times. You were just a toddler at the time, I think. It takes me a few seconds to remember what Henry once told me. It was the day Sarah had gotten back from Colorado, the day we confessed being in love with one another. After she left, Henry and I were sitting at dinner, and he said, though I don't know her number or have any idea where she is, one of the children who came to Earth was the daughter of your parents' best friends. They used to joke that it was fate that the two of you would end up together. I almost tell Six what Henry said, but remembering how that conversation came about because of my feelings for Sarah brings back the same guilt I felt since Six and I went for our walk. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. I don't really remember it, though, I say. Regardless, this is some heavy stuff about the elders. And how are we supposed to assume their roles? No wonder the Mogs are so relentless, she says. Definitely makes sense. We have to go back to paradise, Sam interrupts. Yeah, right, Six laughs. What we need to do is find the others somehow. We need to get back on that laptop, train some more. Sam stands. No, I'm serious, guys. We have to go back. If my dad left something behind, that transmission device, I think I know how to find it. When I was 7, he told me that my future was mapped out on the sundial. I would ask him what he was talking about, and he'd just say that if the dark stars ever fell, I was supposed to find the Enid and read the map by my birth date on the sundial. What's an Enid? I ask. It's a group of 9 deities in Egyptian mythology. 9? Six asks. 9 deities? And what sundial? I ask. It's starting to make sense now, Sam says. He begins walking around the picnic table as he puts it together in his head, Bernie Kosar nipping at his heels. I used to get so frustrated because he was always saying all this weird stuff that only he understood. A few months before he disappeared, my dad dug a well in our backyard, and he said it would collect the rainwater from the gutters or whatever. But after the concrete was poured, he put this elaborate-looking sundial on the stone lid. Then he stood looking down at the well, and he said to me, your future's mapped out on the sundial, Sam. And you never checked it out, I asked. Sure I did. I twisted the sundial around, trying my date, time of my birth, a few other things, but nothing ever happened. A thought it was just a stupid well with a sundial on it after a while. But now that I read Henry's letter, the part about the dark stars, I know what it has to be, some kind of clue to all of this. It's like he told me without telling me, Sam beams. He was so smart. So are you, I say. This could very well be suicide, us going back to paradise. But I don't think we have much of a choice now. What? Wow. We got plenty of time. We have plenty of time. But I am sniffling, and excuse me. I need to blow my nose. Well, this is certainly getting good, huh? Book 2 has got a bunch of surprises, and I had remembered that about Sam's dad, and I knew it from book 1 when we were reading book 1. And I was waiting. I just didn't remember when the big reveal had taken place. I wonder if you guys knew. I don't know. So I wake with clenched teeth, a sour taste in my mouth. I tossed and turned all night, not only because the chest is finally in my possessions, and I'm anxious to try to talk to Adelina into opening it with me this morning, but also because I revealed too much to too many people. Excuse me. I put my legacies on full display. How much would they all remember? Will I be exposed before breakfast? I sit up to see Ella in her bed. Everyone is still asleep in the room except for Gabby, LaGorda, Delfina, and Bonita. Their beds are empty. My feet are about to touch the ground when Sister Lucia opens the doorway, her hands on her hips, her mouth twisted into a frown. We make eye contact, and I lose my breath. But then she takes a couple of steps backward and allows the 4 girls from the nave to wobble into the room, dazed and bruised, their clothes ripped and dirty. Gabby stumbles to her bed and falls face first onto it, the pillow enveloping her head. LaGorda rubs her double chin and lies back into her bed with a grunt. Bonita and Delfina slowly crawl under their covers. As soon as all four girls are motionless, Sister Lucia yells, "It's time to get up." And that means everyone. As I try to pass by Gabby on the way to the bathroom, she flinches. LaGorda stands at the mirror inspecting the discoloration of her skin. When she sees my reflection over her shoulder, she immediately turns on the faucet and tries to focus on washing her hands. I can get used to this. I don't really want to intimidate people, but I like the idea I might be left alone. Ella skips out of one of the bathroom stalls and waits her turn at the sinks to wash up. I worry that she's going to be scared of me because of what I did in the nave. But the moment she sees me, Ella dramatically flexes her right hand over my head. I lean into her ear. "So you're okay?" "Thanks to you," she says. I catch LaGorda's eye in the mirror. "Hey," I whisper, "last night is our little secret. Everything that happened last night is our secret. Okay? Don't tell anyone." She puts her finger to her closed lips, and I feel better. But there is something about the way LaGorda looked at me that doesn't sit well. I'm so preoccupied by what might be in the chest that I forego my morning internet search for news of John and Henry Smith. I don't have the patience to wait for morning mass to see Adelina, so I walk from room to room looking for her, but she's nowhere to be found. The first bell rings for morning mass. I shuffle in beside Ella in one of the last rows, and I wink at her. I locate Adelina in the front row. Halfway through mass, Adelina looks over her shoulder and makes eye contact with me. When she does, I point up to the nave's nook where she hid the chest so many years ago. Her eyebrows raise. "I couldn't understand what you were saying," Adelina says after mass. The two of us stand together under a stained glass window of St. Joseph on the left side of the nave, and we're bathed in the patchwork of muted yellows, browns, and reds. Her eyes match the seriousness of her posture. I found the chest. "Where?" I nod my head up to the right. "I am the one who was supposed to decide when you're ready, and you are not ready, not even close," she says angrily. I pull my shoulders back and I set my jaw. I was never going to be ready in your eyes because you stopped believing, Adelina. The name catches her off guard. She opens her mouth and stops before letting loose whatever tirade is on her tongue. You have no idea what I'm going through in here with these other girls. While you're walking around holding onto your Bible and praying and counting the beads on your rosary, you don't care at all that I'm getting bullied, that I have just one friend, that all the sisters hate me. There's a whole world out there I'm supposed to be defending. 2 worlds, actually. Lorien and Earth need me, and they need you. And I'm holed up in here like an animal in the zoo, and you don't even care. Of course I care. I start to cry. No, you don't. No, you don't. Maybe you cared back when you were Odetta, or maybe a little when you were Emelina. But ever since you became Adelina, I've been Marina. You haven't cared about me or the other 8 or what we're supposed to be doing here. I'm sorry, but I can't stand you talking to me about salvation when that's all I'm trying to achieve. I'm trying to protect us. I'm trying to do so much good. And you act as if I'm evil or something. Adelina takes a step forward, her arms open for a hug. But something causes her to retreat and take a step back. Her shoulders bounce as she starts to cry. My arms immediately wrap around her and we embrace. What's wrong? Why isn't Marina? What's wrong? Why isn't Marina in the cafeteria? We turn to see Sister Dora and her arms crossed over her chest. A copper crucifix hangs over her wrists. Go, Adelina whispers. We'll talk about this later. I wipe my face and I rush past Sister Dora. As I leave the nave, I can hear snippets of heated argument brewing between Sister Dora and Adelina, their voices echoing off the vaulted ceiling, and I run my hands through my hair in hope. Before sneaking back into the sleeping quarters last night, I floated the chest down the narrow, dark hallway to the left of the nave, past the ancient statues cut into the rock walls. It now sits hidden atop the narrow tower of the North Belfry, secure behind the padlocked oak door. It's safe there for the moment, but I can't convince Adelina to open it with me. If I can't convince Adelina to open it with me soon, I'll have to find another location. Ella is nowhere to be found in the cafeteria, and I worry that my legacy has somehow backfired and she's at the hospital. She's in Sister Lucia's office, a girl says when I ask the girls at the table nearest the door. There was a married couple with her. I think they're going to adopt her or something. She pours a spoonful of soggy eggs onto her plate. So lucky. My knees buckle and I catch myself from falling to the ground by gripping the edge of the table. I have no right to be so upset at the thought of Ella leaving the orphanage, but she's my one friend. Of course, I knew she would be on the sister short list of adoptable girls. Ella is 7 and sweet and cute and wonderful to be around. I really hope she finds a home, especially after losing her parents, but I'm not ready to let her go, regardless of how selfish it is. It was determined when Adelina and I arrived that I'd never be adopted. But I sit there now wondering if it might have been better if I was eligible. Maybe someone who would have fallen in love with me. I realize that even if Ella is adopted today, it'll take some time for all the paperwork to be reviewed and accepted, which means she'll be here a week, maybe 2, maybe 3. But it still breaks my heart and makes me even more determined to leave this place as soon as I get the chest opened. I slump out of the cafeteria to find my coat, then sneak through the double doors and I march down the hill, not caring that I'm skipping school. I keep an eye for the man with the Pittacus book, staying on the sidewalk behind the vendors of Calais Principal, bouncing from shadow to shadow. As I walk past El Pescador, the village restaurant, I look down the cobblestone alley and see the lid of a trash can teeter and then crash to the ground. The trash can itself begins to quake and wobble. I hear something scraping at its insides. A pair of black and white paws curl over the lip of the can. It's a cat. When he struggles over the edge and lands on the alley floor, I see a long gash run along its right side. An eye is swollen shut. It looks as though it's about to fall over from exhaustion of starvation. He just lies in a pile of trash as if he's given up. You poor thing, I say. I know I'm going to heal him before I take the first step down the alley. He purrs when I kneel down next to him, and when I place my hand on his fur, there isn't resistance. The iciness flows quickly from me to the cat, quicker than it did to Ella or my own cheek. And I don't know if the legacy is getting stronger or if it works faster on animals. His leg straightens and his paws spread wide, and his breathing picks up until it melts into a loud purr. I gently turn the cat over to inspect its right side and see that it's completely healed and covered with a lush coat of black fur. The eye that was swollen shut is now open and looking at me. I name him Legacy and say, if you want to ride out of town, Legacy, then we should talk, because I think I'm leaving soon and I could use the company. I'm startled by a figure appearing at the end of the alley, but it's just Hector pushing his mother in the wheelchair. Ah, Marina of the Sea, he yells. Hi, Hector Ricardo, and I walk towards them. His mother looks slumped and distant, and I worry she's gotten worse. Who is your friend? Hello, little man. Hector bends down to scratch Legacy's chin. Just some company I've picked up along the way. Let's see how much. Oh, we've only got a few pages in this chapter. 4 pages. Let's finish it. We walk quietly, chatting about the weather and Legacy, until arriving at Hector and his mother's front door. Hector, have you seen the man with the mustache and the book at the cafe recently? No, I have not, he says. What is it about this man that bothers you so much? I pause. He just looks like somebody I know. Is that everything? Yes. He can tell I'm lying, but also knows not enough to pry. I know he'll be on the lookout for the man I believe is a Magadorian. I just hope he doesn't get hurt. It was good to see you, Marina. Remember that today is a school day, he winks. I nod sheepishly, and he unlocks his front door, backing inside, pulling his sick mother along with him. The coast is clear over my shoulder, and I continue with my walk for a while, thinking about the chest. When will I be able to talk with Adelina? I also think about John Smith on the run, Ella and her possible adoption, my fight last night in the nave, and the end of Calais Principal. At the end of Calais Principal, I stare at the school building, hating the front door and the windows. Angry at all the time I've spent inside when I could have been on the move, changing my name with each new country. I wonder what I would have named myself in America. Legacy meows around my feet, and I make my way back through the village. I am still walking in the shadows, studying the street blocks ahead of me. I peek inside the window of the cafe, hoping and not hoping to see the Magadorian with the thick mustache. He's not there, but Hector already is. He's laughing at something the woman at the next table just said. I'm going to miss Hector just as much as I'm going to miss Ella. I have 2 friends, not 1. Ducking under the window as I pass, I can't help but look down at Legacy's lush black and white fur. Less than an hour ago, the cat was lying in the alley, bleeding on a pile of trash. Now he's a ball of energy. My ability to heal and breathe new life into plants and animals and humans is an enormous responsibility. Fixing Ella made me more special than I've ever had before. And it wasn't because I felt like a hero, but because I'd helped someone who needed it. I slink a few doors down the street, and Hector's laugh travels through the cafe windows and wraps itself around my shoulders. I know what I need to do. The front door is locked, but when I go around to the back of Hector's house, the first window I try to open with ease. Legacy licks his paws as I climb up and through the window. Jitters attack. I've never broken into someone's house before. The house is small and dark inside, and the air is heavy. Every foreseeable surface is covered with Catholic figurines. I find Hector's mother's room in no time. She lies on a twin bed in the far corner, her blankets slowly rising with each breath. Her legs are twisted in unnatural angles, and she looks frail. Pill bottles line the small nightstand along with rosary beads, a crucifix, a miniature statue of the Virgin Mary, with her hands held up in prayer. 10 or so saints I don't know the names of. I drop to my knees before Carlotta's sleepy body. Her eyes flutter open and scan the air. I freeze and I hold my breath. I've never talked to her before, but when she finds me crouching beside her, a glint of recognition registers. She opens her mouth to speak. Shh, I say to her. I am a friend of Hector's, Senora Ricardo. I don't know if you can understand me, but I'm here to help you. She accepts what I've told her with fluttering eyelids. I reach up and I caress the side of her cheek with the back of my left hand. Then I rest it on her forehead. Her gray hair is dry and brittle. She closes her eyes. My heart is pounding, and I can see a noticeable shake in my hand when I lift it and place it on her stomach. And it's then that I can feel how weak and sick she really is. The cold tingle crawls up my spine and spreads down my arms and into the tip of each fingers. I grow dizzy. My breathing quickens. My heart beats even faster. I begin to sweat despite the prickling chill, turning my skin cold. Carlota's eyes open and a low groan escapes her mouth. I close my eyes. Shh, it's okay, I say to comfort both of us. And then, with the icy chill radiating from me to her, I begin to pull the sickness away. It retreats stubbornly, clinging tightly to her insides, reluctant to loosen her grips, but finally even the stubborn bits let go. Slight tremors cause Carlota to convulse and shake, and I do my best to hold her down. I open my eyes just in time to see the ashen color of Carlota's face change to a pink glow. Vertigo sweeps through me. I lift my hands from her body and I fall back to the floor. My heart thuds so violently that it scares me, like it's about to break free from my body. But in time it slows, and when I finally pull myself to my feet, I see Carlota sitting up with a bewildered look, as though trying to remember where she is and how she got here. I rush into the kitchen and I drink 3 glasses of water. When I walk back, Carlota is still gathering her bearings. I make another quick decision. I go to the nightstand and I rifle through 10 or so pill bottles, finding the label I'm looking for. Warning, may cause drowsiness. I open it, I take 4, and I shove them into my pocket. What's going on? Carlota asks. She's frantic. Where am I? Who are you? I don't answer her. I instead walk from the room, but before I leave, I turn and look at Carlota once more. She's watching me with her healed, untwisted legs dangling over the bed as though she's about to stand. I rush out of the house and find Legacy sleeping under the black window. Keeping to the alleys and side streets, I make my way back to the orphanage with the cat in my arms, wondering how Hector will react when he finds his mother cured. The problem, however, is that the village is small. Secrets don't last long. My only hope is that nobody saw me come and go, and that Carlota won't remember what really happened. Outside the double doors, I unzip my coat cap halfway carefully and place Legacy inside. I know just where I can keep him safe, up in the North Belfry with the chest. The chest, I think. I have to get it open. Dun, dun, dun! I don't think I'm being weird when I was in here. I was just... The cat's over here, and she's swatting at me. Well, we are on chapter 20, my friends. We are page 240. So we've got 160 pages to go. We're doing great. We're doing really, really good. Oh, excuse me. So, I don't know if you guys have heard, if you've been watching the news. And again, I want to read to you guys a little bit of the news. We'll always do, this day in history. I'm sorry I forgot the other day, but so right now, there are, number one, New York is doing pretty good. New York really is doing good with this whole COVID thing. However, there are now 24 states, so about half of the states in the country where things are literally spreading like wildfire. And a lot of those states, I guess, are not shutting down. Some of them are starting to make some adjustments. But I don't know when it's going to get to that point. I don't know, right? But I think that it's got to get to a point where some of these states that have, I think, be quiet, Siri. I think Florida is now up to 2,300 cases a day. Texas, I think, is still over 2,000. What's the other state? There's one more state that's over 2,000 new cases a day. So, scary times, right? Scary times. We shall see. Today, actually, you know what I did today? I watched soccer. It was English Premier League soccer. My team, the Tottenham Hotspurs, or the Spurs, played their second game back. And what they did was all these teams have made these big, big advertisement coverings. So they've covered all the lower seats in the stadiums because they're not letting anybody in, and then they're pumping in crowd noise, which is very interesting. But anyways, so Spurs won, so that was kind of cool. I was like, hey, this kind of feels normal, like I'm watching some televised sport. So we'll see, oh my gosh, we'll see what the fall brings with football. But I think, isn't baseball supposed to start soon? I don't know. I don't watch baseball, but I think it's supposed to. All right. Yeah, actually, wait a minute. I think baseball. Actually, I think baseball was supposed to start today, or maybe it's tomorrow. It's soon, because I think spring training actually started. Anyway. So, this day in history, my friends, in 1898, Booker T. Washington became the first African American to receive an honorary doctorate from Harvard University. So, Booker T. Washington, W.E.B. Du Bois, two African Americans that we learned about this year, both wanted equality for African Americans, but they wanted it in a different way, right? Booker T was a advocate for vocational training and achieving equal rights through not only acquiring wealth through the vocational trades, but showing your worth. And W.E.B. Du Bois was more about using politics and education and legal means. On this day in 1923, or actually it was this week, I guess, the Ku Klux Klan is recruiting thousands of members a week at this point. So after World War II, and again, we touched on this a little bit, there's the Red Scare. There is an increased amount of racism in our country, and that return to, especially in this, yikes, the cat's biting my foot, keep immigrants out, keep America the way it was. World War I was a crazy time, and we don't want all this craziness here in our country. And today, guess what? A century later, we still have all this craziness going on in our country. On this day in 1940, Hitler, the Germans have conquered Paris, right? And it is now to the point where it's safe enough for Hitler to travel to Paris, and he tours Paris. And if I remember correctly, what he does, and I got to look this up, but the Germans are forced to, it's November 11th, on the 11th minute of the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, in this train car in Paris, the Germans sign the surrender of World War I. And if I remember correctly, Hitler makes the French sign the surrender in the same train car. I got to look that up. On this day in 1941, with Germany just kicking everybody's butt, and now there was the German-Soviet pact to carve up Poland and the non-aggression pact. Well, now Germany has gone back on that, and you hear the cat yelling at me. And now FDR says to the Soviet Union on this day, we will give you material to help you fight the war. On this day in 1972, Title IX is enacted. And what Title IX is it says that any organization that receives federal funding cannot discriminate against anyone because of gender. At the time, it means mostly women, meaning that you can't say, all right, there can't be a women's basketball team, there can't be a women's lacrosse team, or what have you. Excuse me. And it really changed sports across America in 1972. And then on this day, collegiate sport at least. Additionally, on this day in 1972, Richard Nixon tells the director of the FBI, hey, back off, Jack. You stop investigating this Watergate nonsense. So he basically threatens the director of the FBI. And that's part of what gets him in trouble. And, because of it, he is the only president that has ever resigned the presidency. He was not impeached. He was not removed. He resigned. He would have been impeached and he would have been removed. But instead, he resigned the presidency, and Gerald Ford ascended to the presidency. And Gerald Ford was the first unelected president. So Nixon's vice president, what was his name? Spiro Agnew, I believe. He had resigned. And then Nixon resigned. And so with that, Gerald Ford, the Speaker of the House, ascended to the presidency. And he was the president. And then in 1976, Jimmy Carter became president. And Carter served for a term, and then Reagan became president for 8 years. So with that, my friends, good reading in our book. We're heating it up. Probably next week we'll be done, right? What's today? Tuesday, so we'll read Friday, Sunday. Yeah, maybe next Friday. Maybe next Friday we'll finish it. Because we're reading about 35 pages a night. So, stop it. You hear her yelling at me? Why are you yelling at me? Why are you yelling? Huh? Anyway, I'm gonna get a drink, and I'm gonna hit the hay, my friends. I gotta get up early tomorrow. We have got to be at the dental place pretty early. So have a good night. I hope all is well. Thanks for reading with me, and I'll see you guys on Friday. Keep running that marathon. We'll be back to some kind of normal soon enough. It wasn't that long ago I started saying that to you guys, and we got to that first big goal of ending school, and we did, and a bunch of you graduated, and a bunch of you now officially are no longer juniors and becoming seniors, and before we know it, we'll be back in school in one way or another, and you'll be that much closer. So keep running the marathon, my friends. Be good, and I'll see you soon.